What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lexi J Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Lexi Johnson, and this is my husband and co-host, Brett Johnson. This week, we're talking about something that I do every single day. If you follow me on Instagram, you're well acquainted with this phrase. We're talking about getting your ass outside, GYAO. I feel a bit hypocritical saying get your ass outside, as we firmly are planted inside. But rest assured,
should we do an outdoor episode?
Just sweating bullets in Missouri humidity.
I was just sitting in our driveway, just sweating bullets with all this equipment.
Yeah, I'm already the strangest person in this neighborhood from getting my ass outside.
They honestly wouldn't think anything of it at this point.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty par for the course.
It would be strange if we weren't doing push-ups while doing this.
Yeah, they think so. Sidebar, this is actually a funny story. So Brett and I are much younger than the majority of the people that live in our neighborhood. There are other couples now that are closer to our age, but we've lived here for over 5 years, and we have largely been the youngest people here. We're also very active, so at any given time, we maybe are doing Murph in the driveway, or we're constantly going on walks, and when we're going on walks, before we got our rucks, we were wearing weighted vests, so we look like we were walking into combat just throughout this suburban neighborhood. So we would get some funny looks, and not to mention when this space was being reconstructed, so we're in our finished basement now, but it was unfinished when I first started Lexi J Wellness. So as it was that construction process was happening, I was recording workouts in the garage, and I would be...
Talk about sweat.
Yeah, so sweaty. I would be blaring music. I would be I'm talking throughout these entire workouts. So I'm hollering in my garage completely by myself, talking to a camera.
Which becomes an echo chamber for the music and your voice.
Yeah.
Just projecting it out.
And there were multiple times when I would have neighborhood kids just sitting on their bikes at the base of the driveway, just staring at me like a zoo animal. And so needless to say, the people in our neighborhood probably think Brett and I are freaks anyway. But last year we were on a walk, and there are several ponds in this neighborhood also. So we were walking around this pond, and there was a huge black snake. They slithered across the sidewalk, and snakes are freaking gross, but I'm not scared to kill them. My dad is terrified of snakes, so I was the snake slayer in my home growing up.
Designated snake killer.
Yeah, I pride myself on that. So I'm like, Brett, keep your eyes on that stupid snake. I'm going to go get a shovel from someone. But we don't really know very many people in our neighborhood. So
It was big. That was a big snake.
It was a big snake. And there's kids that play around. I know for a fact there are kids around those ponds. There are kids in those houses close. There are tiny dogs. And I'm sorry if you're a snake lover, but kids and dogs take priority. So anyway, I'm okay, I remember when we walked past this house earlier, the guy had his garage door open because he was cleaning his truck. So I run back to this house. This man is cleaning his truck, and I'm hey, and I'm panting because I ran back to the house. Don't know this man, our first interaction. And I'm hey, this is such a weird question, but I was I have a really weird request. And he was looked me dead in the eye, and he was do you want me to time you guys? That just perfectly encapsulates what the people around us probably think of Brett and I. Yeah. That we were soliciting a referee for a race, which honestly, it's not far off. But anyway, he gave me a shovel. I killed that sucker. I walked back victorious.
First interaction with this man. Can I borrow a shovel?
Yeah. I wave at him now every time I see him on my walks, and he probably remembers me as that psycho that bloodied his lawn equipment.
Really nice guy.
Yeah, super nice guy. So anyway, we get our asses outside a fair amount. I can't even remember what got me started on that. Oh, just how funny it would be if we recorded this podcast on the porch or in the driveway. Just about
our abnormalities in our current setting.
Yeah, which also, so because we had walked in weighted vests for a while, I get a lot of questions about the ruck. So a ruck is essentially a weighted backpack. So there's a difference between a weighted vest and a ruck. The vest has weight, obviously, but it's distributed on the front and the back. So typically an even distribution, and you're adding resistance to your movement. So whether you're walking or you're running or whatever, like you're adding resistance. It's making it harder. That's awesome. There's really, I'm not going to knock either one. I'm just going to tell you why I prefer the ruck. So that is what the weighted vest is. If you're rucking, you're wearing that weight on your back. So ours, like we use the Go Ruck brand, and mine is 30 pounds. Brett's is 40. And the weight is all on your back. So because it's all on one side, you have to like brace your core more. You have to adjust your posture, and it's meant to really engage those core muscles, force you to adjust your posture, and it keeps that distribution on your back. So whether you're distributing that weight front and back or it's entirely on your back, that's just the reason. That's the difference. I prefer that one because it makes me engage my core a little bit more, but two, it's much less intimidating to the outsider. Like I rarely get questions about what looks like a backpack because that's exactly what it looks like. It's just weighted. But there were multiple times when we would walk through our neighborhood wearing vests and people would question, like, because it looks like you're going into battle. Like you look like a badass, not gonna lie. But sometimes when you're just like the end of a work day, you're trying to get a little extra.
All right, so and mine's like army green. So,
yeah.
So it's pretty eye grabbing.
Yeah, it looks pretty intense. So, honestly, whichever way you slice it, you're adding resistance to your movement. It's a great way to just increase your caloric burn, but that's why I prefer the ruck. But, like, if I were to do something like the Murph workout, I would wear the vest.
Right. They each serve their own purpose, but if you're just going to go on a walk, then I prefer the ruck. It's, like you said, it's an imbalanced amount of weight, so you don't have the counter weight on the front side. It's more weight overall. You can only fit so much weight in those vests. The vests are best suited for like a Murph or something where it's going to be more jumping, more active, because there's going to be a lot less like downforce, you know, a lot less movement. Whereas with that backpack, like it's like trying to run with a backpack on. You know, if you've ever done that, flashbacks to me running across Mizzou's campus late to class.
I would never.
That is something, but outside of umbrellas, you thinking that something is that's embarrassing that's really not that embarrassing because everybody's had to use it or do it is running to class with a backpack on. No.
See, it's interesting to me that that's a vivid memory of yours because you have no sense of punctuality. I can't believe you would run because you're not on time to anything. Where did your sense of urgency go in the last 5 years?
It's not that I don't have a sense of urgency.
6 years.
It's just that
I have the sense. I just cannot.
I just pack a lot of things in before my things that I do.
It's amazing, honestly, because we get up so early and we're just never on time. We really.
One might assume that we wake up we roll out of bed at like 8 o'clock.
No, we get up at 5 almost every single day, and it doesn't matter if the event we're going to.
The whole morning's packed though.
It is. No, but like I'm thinking about we were late to Christmas because it was freezing outside. It was in the negative temperatures, but you stopped at a car wash and hand washed a car in the freezing temperature that ended up freezing because that's how freezing temperatures work. And we were late to Christmas.
I didn't want the salt on the vehicle. We got through all the areas where the salt was and everything was melting off.
It wasn't melting because it was frozen because the temperature was frozen.
It just so happened that I think that we caught a spot that there was like moisture still on the road and it flicked up more, but I thought we were through it. That's okay. Different story.
We've been late to funerals.
I have my reasons for things.
We've been late to funerals before.
Name one.
I'm not going to name drop dead people in here.
Okay, whatever. My punctuality is not my strong suit.
Yes, and yes, running with a backpack on is embarrassing.
Yeah. How do we get to
being
late to funerals?
I think I would just choose to be late.
Okay, but my point was they both have a purpose.
Yes.
But yes, just to casually walk in a backpack is a lot less strange looking than to casually walk with a vest on.
Yeah. But if a vest is what you have, freaking wear that thing because it's adding resistance. And when you add your resistance to your movement, you're automatically burning more calories. It'd be the same as if you were like walking with dumbbells on your shoulders or just holding them.
Which there's an old guy in our neighborhood who does that, actually.
Yep.
It's not convenient, but hey, it gets the job done.
I bet his forearms are hella strong, though. His grip strength.
He walks in curls. Like, he'll pump that baby and then switch arms. He only takes one dumbbell.
Smart. Yeah. All right, so we're getting our asses outside. I was trying to think because when you had suggested we talk about this, I was thinking about like when I first started posting. If you follow me on Instagram, I post Get Your Ass Outside on Instagram on my story every day. And I have...
How long ago was it, do you think?
I think it was last spring. Because
Feels like forever ago now.
Because it's been over a year. I'm thinking it was last spring because I'm pretty sure it was raining on the first time I ever posted. And I was like, who cares? Get your ass outside. And it has a lot, like, it's a fun catchphrase, but there is a lot of thought behind it. And a lot of things that I've like even gained as a byproduct that I didn't really think about when I first started it. But it has quite momentum now. Like I get tagged in dozens of Get Your Ass Outside stories every day, which is cool. And I mean, it's cool to be a part of something bigger than that. But I also just like to think that, in getting their asses outside and being a part of like a funny little Instagram hashtag, like there are so many benefits, truly. So I wanted to kind of dive into that because it's one of those things that is so easy to just swipe under the rug. It's easy to discredit and think that it's beneath you if you're already in good shape. Like, okay, going for a walk is really going to make that big of a difference. I've had that talk countless times with people that just feel like it's almost below them. And it makes me laugh so much because it seriously has made such a difference. And I'm at a point right now where I'm pretty confident, pretty happy with my body composition. And I attribute so much of it to that daily promise. It's invaluable, truly. And actually, when I was going live with one of my girls, so Caroline Hill is one of our clients that she just hit 50 pounds lost. And we went live on a Zoom call last week. And I was just asking, like, if there was one thing that you could suggest to someone to really be the difference maker. And she tracks her food diligently. She works out consistently, like resistance trains with me. She gets her steps. And she was like, honestly, I feel like it's the walks. The walks are the secret sauce. And I say that all the time to our clients. Like, it's those things that seem insignificant and seem they're just as easy not to do as they are to do, because going for a walk isn't that challenging. I mean, obviously, if you're adding weight or you're going for a long distance, it is. But it's one of those things where it's so easy to talk yourself out of.
Yeah, well, something that could easily be kind of like you said, swept under the rug, is that the second workout for us while we're on 75 hard, which we traditionally do like once every year, is a walk. And just that little bit of extra movement, I say a little bit, I mean it's basically 3 miles by the time the 45 minutes is up. But that extra 45-minute walk every day, that has a profound effect, like overall on just like your mental state and on your physical state. And obviously your diet's like a huge element there because consistency is key.
Seeing the results.
Right. Whenever you're looking at your physical progress. But I mean, that walk is big.
Yeah. So I want to hit on mental for sure, because that is huge, especially for where I'm at right now. But like you had mentioned, so say you walk close to 3 miles in 45 minutes, probably a little bit under, but we'll round up to 3 miles to be, just for numbers' sake. Roughly 1 mile walking is about 2,000 steps. So that's 6,000 additional steps to your day that you wouldn't get otherwise. The average American gets 2,000 to 3,000 steps passively. So if they're not intentionally going for a walk, if they're not intentionally getting up, getting steps in, they're hardly getting a mile, mile and a half in their entire day. And just taking 45 minutes out of your entire day and going for a walk, that's going to
at least double
to be conservative.
For the average person.
But at least double. And that's going to add so much extra calories. Also, it's such a productive use of time. I was thinking that on my walk today because I was like, I've been really pushing it because that's been some of my favorite times of the day recently. I've loved getting out in the heat of the day, which I am grateful that I can structure my day around that. But I like getting out in the heat of the day, and I've been rucking for an hour to 70 minutes, which seems like a really long time. It does. However, I'm like, that's like two shows on Netflix. How many, I guarantee so many people will easily go through a show or 2 shows, 3 shows a night and not think twice about it. But then if they were to hear me say that I do that diligently and I do that every single day, they're probably thinking, well, that's excessive and you've got a problem.
Right.
But how easily do those shows on Netflix just continually pass by and you continue to, click the next one, get sucked in. But that time is just... Are you still
watching?
Yeah. And I was thinking about that on my walk because I've been super proud of that. And I'm keeping that promise to myself and keeping that commitment feels so good. And now it's a streak. And once something about your brain, once you have a streak alive, you want to maintain it as long as possible. And it's just another tally in your belt for doing hard things. And I say hard things because right now I'm pushing the envelope and I'm rucking further. But just going for a walk, keeping those promises to yourself, you have no idea how powerful they are. And when you encounter anything where it takes a little extra grit, it takes a little extra gumption, and it doesn't have to be involved with fitness or health or anything like that. But say you have a hard conversation at work, or you have a big proposal deadline or anything. If you have no history in your brain to fall back on of examples that I kept a promise to myself, examples that I saw something through that was difficult, then that challenging event is going to be 10x. It's going to be so much harder because you have no evidence to prove that you're capable of doing it. But I feel so confident in I can do what I'm taking any challenge head on because I continually do that every day. I choose to do the things that are challenging to me. And it just feels really good. I feel like I'm in a really good spot right now.
Yeah. Whenever you were saying that it was hard, I think that there's a little more to that because the act of walking 45 minutes every day, walking isn't hard. What's hard is building the discipline to do it every day.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
Because anybody can walk, every day. But very, very, very few people have the diligence and the consistency just to do the small, mundane things every single day. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I think that's a really good distinction because it's I say it all the time, seemingly insignificant. When you think about making a lifestyle change, you think about those reels on Instagram where people are pouring sweat and they're doing crazy stuff and they're lifting heavy weights, but doing the really boring stuff day in and day out and just continuing to keep those promises, that's the good stuff. I guarantee if you feel overwhelmed by lifting weights, that if you commit to walking 45 minutes every day and you just start tracking your food, being more mindful of that, you will see tremendous progress without picking up a weight. I'm a huge proponent of picking up weights. I make a living off of helping people, instructing them to pick up weights and move their body. But I'm promising you right now, you could see tremendous progress from simply keeping that promise to yourself, not negotiating with it. And I feel so strongly about just the physical side of that promise because, the little things really do add up. But I do want to touch on the mental side of it because there is no substitute or supplement for fresh air and sunlight.
This is my favorite part.
What?
This is my favorite part.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go back to why I started posting that, because at first, like, it kind of ties into what I had just said. Like, if you're too intimidated to get started with anything else, I think walking is a great way to get started. And that was kind of my mindset in posting it. Like, anybody could do this. Like, just get your ass outside. Just start that. That feels like a really good way to get your foot in the door. If you're too scared to bite off the whole, like, you know, the whole chunk, just nibble. And I felt like that was a manageable way, because I want to meet everybody where they're at. And I have seen so many people not know where to start and be so overwhelmed, just feel like they're way too far behind to make any progress, like it's too late for them. And I think walking's a great way to start. So that was kind of like a silly little way on Instagram to, hey, you could join me in doing this. Like, I know you can walk. Let's do it together. Let's get our asses outside. And in doing so, you kind of start like this, you get little momentum. And it took a long time before anyone really joined in. But slowly but surely, we have like a little tribe, a GYAO tribe. It's really cool. But
the early adopters.
Yeah. Shout out to Briley and Kaylee and Sam. So we were getting our asses outside. I also felt like, you know, everyone talks about hot girl walks, but when I'm outside, like, I'm hoofing it and I'm sweating a lot, and I have like
temperature hot,
frizzy hair. It's not a hot girl walk aesthetically. So I'm like, get your asses outside. It's like blue collar hot girl walk. That's me. But just there's no substitute to sunshine and fresh air. And I was actually doing like a little research on this. So there is something called ectotherapy, and it's a form of therapy that people do in conjunction with other forms of therapy. So like there's talk therapy, there's, you know, like paint therapy, music therapy, and there's ectotherapy, and it's getting outside. It's moving your body outside, or like meditating outside. It is the act of being in nature and experiencing sunlight and fresh air that has profound effects on anxiety and depression, and just boosts your serotonin. Like, there's scientific evidence of this. This isn't just bullshit.
Interesting. I didn't know there was like an all-encompassing term for it therapeutically.
Yeah, ectotherapy. So
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Do anything outside, really, and it's going to have a positive effect.
So think about this. We already know that exercise itself is such a great adjunct to anxiety and depression and just combating those. And then you're outside, like you could be sitting outside and experiencing ectotherapy, but combining the two, just going for a walk outside daily, think about the mood boost and the serotonin boost you get from, I mean, you're stacking the deck in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many benefits to being outside with just having direct sunlight, the vitamin D exposure, and there's a very strong correlation between that and depression.
Yeah, so you think about, like everyone knows, you've heard seasonal affective disorder, seasonal depression. It's not a coincidence that seasonal depression happens in the winter months when the days are a lot shorter. So you have less sun exposure. Like,
right.
That's why you and I supplement vitamin D in the winter months and the fall when the days are shorter.
And the farther north you are, the shorter the days become in the fall. So naturally, you're going to experience it more if you have a predisposition to that in the more northern states. Closer you are to the equator, the longer your days are going to be, even in the short times of the year.
Yeah, so you have all of these like very scientific, data-driven, evidence-based examples that your mental health is going to be benefited. But then you have that like intangible, I mean, it's not quantitative, but like, you know how self-esteem is formed, you know how confidence is formed, and it's through keeping promises to yourself. If you know for a fact that you're capable and you're going to deliver on what you say you're going to do, then that's a new level of confidence. And when you continually just execute on those commitments to yourself,
flex that diligence muscle,
yeah, then it's, like I said, it's stacking the deck in your favor. You have an entirely new level of grit and confidence moving forward. So not only are you going to be in a better headspace, anxiety, depression just mood wise, but also you're going to feel better about yourself and your ability to do what you say you're going to do.
Right. If you have the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you hold yourself accountable and you hold yourself to a high standard, then you're going to have a higher self-esteem. So there's that side of it, like you're saying, and then there's all, the quantitative stuff that you can like read in a textbook and say, okay, well, here's the whole entire panel of benefits that come along with being outside with direct sunlight. There's like stuff that people recommend that you do that seems kind of like bizarre. Like, Huberman talks about waking up and first thing, standing and looking, I don't think at the sun, but toward the sun for 20 minutes or whatever. It's a great way to start your day.
I don't know that I can stand still for 20 minutes.
It does seem like a difficult task. I've never done that, but one thing that I started doing recently, which is counterproductive to my goals, but I've been running more. In the summer, I just tend to do that because the weather permits. But like I'll run a 1 mile warm up, and whenever it's sunny out, first thing in the morning, and nobody's really out, and I just get to sit there and just kind of bask in the nice warm sun shining on me. It is just a great way to start your day. I feel like it definitely helps my mentality. And again, if you're aware of the positive benefits of it, you start to really like connect the dots. But even if you aren't aware, like if you don't have this deeper level of understanding after listening to people that can explain the scientific background behind all this, you still just feel better. And you're like, I don't know why, but it makes me feel better.
Well, I was kind of thinking as, even if you don't care, okay, so let's say you don't believe any of that stuff. You don't believe all the scientific data to prove that vitamin D has benefits for so many things. Think about it from a habit displacement standpoint. Like if you're outside and you're walking and you're, soaking up the sunshine and the fresh air, what are you not doing? You're not sitting on the couch being sedentary, scrolling on your phone, staring mindlessly into a screen that is probably negatively affecting your health, your physical and your mental health. Putting a lot of, I don't know about you, but like social media is designed. It's designed to get you hooked. It's designed to keep you scrolling. It's designed to make you feel like you're not enough. There are algorithms to, just make you feel inferior and make you feel less than. And
it's like this insatiable itch that you have, that you just crave to keep on itching over and over, positive or negative, and most of the time negative.
So many of us, and I myself included, like it is something that I really struggle with. Like I want that phone out of my hands, but there are some times when I'm like, I physically can't. I put it down and I pick it right back up. But being outside, it is intentionally replacing that habit. It is intentionally filling that time with something else. So maybe you really struggle with being on screens constantly. Maybe you really struggle with like mindless eating or eating out of boredom or whatever. Like there are ways that you can combat those things that you struggle with that can be positive also. So it's kind of, it's a hack. Not only are you replacing and filling that time with something that's not the habit you're really struggling with, but it's something that's going to actually serve you well.
Yeah. I don't remember like exactly how many, what percentage of our population is deficient in vitamin D, but it's a majority for sure that's deficient in vitamin D. And again, vitamin D has a huge array of benefits, but to name a few, it battles against depression, it boosts your immunity, boosts your
serotonin.
The pheromones, natural pheromones, or not pheromones.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I could be wrong. I might be misremembering that. Regardless, there's just a slew of benefits to it, and there's really no argument against not being, out. And obviously, don't go out and get a giant sunburn, and don't look directly into the sun and bathe your eyeballs in it for an extended period of time. Use common sense. But I think that there's been this, like, I don't know how many years it's been, but there's been this era of people that have almost made the sun out to be a demon. Like, if you don't go outside with, a full coat of sunscreen on, then it's horrible for you. Like, basically,
I was so confused where you were going with that.
Well, it was promoted for a lot of, from a lot of people, and understandably to a certain extent. If you go out and you just get, horrible burns, like, that's not good for your skin. Don't go out and get 2nd-degree burns from the sun. But exposure to sunlight is a very positive thing, and it does good things for your body.
In short, get your ass outside.
Positive mental and physical benefits.
So much. Yeah, I am so much of a basics are the basics kind of girl. Like, Brett said that he runs more in the summer. I do not. I don't. Maybe I'll get back into running, but at this point I am super, super content with rucking, and I really like the challenge that it gives me. I love the time for myself to think and to explore a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of good thoughts while I'm rucking, and I think that another side of things, just before we close it out, I just finished a book called Dopamine Nation, and it talks about how dopamine is basically, there's like two sides of the coin, kind of teeter-totter. So dopamine is something that you feel pleasure-wise, like it's a happy feeling. However, if you are constantly inundated with high levels of dopamine, if you're scrolling on your phone mindlessly, constantly getting those little dopamine hits from every single TikTok and every single post on Instagram, every like and comment and share you get on your feed, like, you are oversaturated with dopamine to the point where it would become like your tolerance for it is much higher. So it takes larger percentages of dopamine, larger things to really get that same reaction that something smaller used to. So think about like an addict, an alcoholic or something, where they used to be able to get drunk on a smaller amount, and now they really, really have to drink in order to feel that same buzz. That's kind of how dopamine works. However, the other side of that teeter-totter is the pain. So if you intentionally experience pain, and that sounds like kind of, I don't know, sick, but like put yourself into uncomfortable positions and, intentional exercise that puts you into challenging positions. So I've kind of been diving into that side of things because I do find myself like just getting sucked into that social media and that constant scrolling that does not do me any good. That I've like been challenging myself. Okay, I'm going to go for a little bit longer on this truck. I'm going to go for a little bit longer. And one thing about it, it doesn't get easier. Like, it is constant pressure. It's constant challenge. I'm doing it at the hottest part of the day most days, and I'm sweating so much. But I finished that ruck, and I feel so good. And it kind of evens out those scales a little bit.
That's interesting. So there's like a positive, negative relationship between like the pain and the dopamine that you receive.
Yeah. So if you think about like ice baths give you a huge surge of dopamine, but not until afterward. Like, because the pain at the beginning. So
as long as you push through the pain,
the threshold,
then the dopamine comes later.
I mean, that's the way I understand it, at least.
Which makes sense. Yeah. Because the dopamine doesn't happen while you're in the ice bath. The dopamine comes after the ice bath. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So I just hadn't really thought of it that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And no different than a workout.
Yeah, you have those post-workout highs. You have, post-run highs, the endorphins. Those good feelings come after something challenging. And if you are someone that maybe can identify as like, yeah, I just I don't put myself into those positions that are uncomfortable, and I'm feeling more and more just neutral, kind of apathetic, because you can't experience that same high and that same pleasure and happiness that you did get used to from the simpler things, because you're inundated and you're oversaturated with those dopamine hits. So that book again is called Dopamine Nation. It makes you feel kind of gross, honestly, just reading it. There are a lot of things that are just unsettling. But that was something that I've really been pressing on, just putting myself intentionally, pushing harder on things that challenge me.
Yeah.
And I feel damn proud.
Social media it's tough.
It is.
It's tough on your mind.
So take a break from it and get your ass outside. You got anything else?
I really don't. I think that just the whole GYAO thing is the way it's been adopted, and the number of people that I see that have just kind of made it, a normal practice. It's very cool. And even though, like, the first time you did it, I'm sure that you had absolutely no clue that, a few people would adopt it and think, I'm gonna do this as well. And now it's like a coined term, it's like a small movement in itself. And I think that it has this potential to be something much larger than this, and really just to get it out there in the mainstream, and hopefully encourage some people to just get active, get outside. It doesn't mean that you have to go out and run a marathon. All it means is get outside, get some physical movement, get your heart rate up a little bit, and enjoy some sunshine.
Yeah.
And there's so many benefits that come along with that. You don't even have to understand the scientific background behind it. Everybody can stand to see those benefits.
A little unintentional ectotherapy. I'm on a mission to make the really, really basic, boring things that will serve you so well, to make them cool and trendy. One GYAO at a time.
One GYAO at a time.
All right, guys. We will talk to you next week. Until then, if you have any Q&A topics or just topics in general that you'd like us to touch on, feel free to email those to us at
pod@lexijwellness.com.
But until then, we'll talk to you then.